as I was listening to all the erudite contributions, I have to confess I felt tired. Why? Because I've been doing this for 40 years. And hearing some of the things that we have heard again and again. Domestic violence in particular, but violence against women, is the greatest cause of morbidity in women and girls. We know that as a fact. And yet it is quite shocking that, knowing that, so little has in fact been done to address it. If this was something that was killing and injuring 1 in 3 men in our world, there would be an outcry. People would be taking to the streets and saying, enough, we will not put up with this anymore. Why do I think the economic cost of domestic violence and violence against women is so important? Because what we've discovered is what people care about, regrettably, is money. And if we have to have governments focus on this issue, we have to make the economic case for why they should do something different to that which they are currently doing. And the truth is, this is not an issue which needs us to spend government money additional. We need to spend the money differently, because we are making choices right now. And the unfortunate thing is, many people believe that doing nothing has no cost implications, but the truth is it has vast cost implications. And I very much like the approach you take, Madam President, when someone comes and says, what's the answer to the question about money? And the answer is no. I very much had that impression, and as some of you will know, I was responsible as the Deputy Minister at the Home Office for dealing with domestic violence and violent crime. And any time I said I wanted to do something on this issue, I was told, but Minister, there is no money. To which I replied, and your point is? Because this is something that we have to look at. I noticed that Nata didn't refer, but I'm sure she's seen it, the data that was produced by Professor Sylvia Walby in her definitive study, because that does have a calculation in relation to the pain, injury, loss and suffering. And I very much think that we need to come together to look practically at what we can do to implement change. And we know what works. The problems that we've been discussing are the same problems in each of our countries. In so many other areas, we can say there are significant cultural differences which impinge on an issue. This is not one of them. Because if we look at the intrinsic nature of violence against women, one of the most tragic things is it is similar in all our countries. It is not so culturally different. And so one of the great things about it is, if it is similar, if we can find a methodology which addresses it robustly, then we have the key to change. And some of the things that were included in the Istanbul Convention shows us directly what works. And if we look at the work that was done in the United Kingdom between 2003 and 2010, we have the essence of what we can do to change it. And the paradigm did shift. When we started the work in 2003-2004, the economic cost of the United Kingdom was £23 billion. We disaggregated the 23 billion. We understood how much was paid by government, how much was paid by business, and how much was paid in injury, loss and suffering. The cost to business was 2.7 billion. The cost to government was 3.1 billion. We were able to disaggregate the 3.1 billion so we could absolutely identify what each department of state was spending. And that meant that we could cut the cost. By 2009, when Sylvia came back to do her assessment, we had cut domestic violence by 64%, and we'd saved 7.1 billion economic cost. Now that is sums that the Treasury can understand. And I think that what we have to do is to garner the intelligence we have between us and create the templates, create the methodologies which will deliver real change on the ground. Too many women and girls are suffering today when they do not have to suffer if we choose to work together. But I think it is a choice. It does involve the World Bank. And if Jim was still here, I would be saying, do the baseline. Do the baseline that we can all use. Because every single country needs to understand when they're going to the Treasury, this is how much you are already spending. And we're not asking people to spend more money, we are asking them to spend their money differently, wisely, in a way that can make a difference. And so as I sit around listening to us saying the things that we have said for year after year after year, and meaning it, and being passionate about it, and wanting to change, I think there's a moment for us to say, we are the change. No one else is going to do this. And in the past, many of us have been knocking on the door because we were not in these seats. Someone else was making the decision. Well, now we are in these seats. So what are we going to do about it? If I can say what I intend to do about it in relation to the 53 countries for which I am tangentially jointly responsible with the 53 heads, I am putting this at the forefront of the work that we want to do, that we will make change. I am asking the Secretariat to look at the economic cost for each of the 53 countries. But the truth is, I do not have the capacity within a tiny budget to do the work that could and should be done by the World Bank, by the OECD, by the World Health Organization, and by my friends in the European Union and elsewhere. And so I'm excited.
We can join forces.
I'm excited by virtue of the fact that NATO is going to be working with DFID on these issues. But think about how many of us are working in our hermetically sealed silos. What if we decided to work collectively on this issue and actually came up with the templates, with the draft legislative provisions, with the regulatory structures which we could translate into action and no more talk? So I would like to say, what are we going to do collectively together to make this no longer talk but reality? Because I don't know about everyone else around the table, but I'm tired of having the same conversations. I'm tired of watching men, women and children die unnecessarily because we choose, and it is a choice, not to work in concert one with the other, not to collaborate, not to drive this agenda in a way that will mean that in 4 years' time we will have a different paradigm. When I started the work in 2003, 2004, everyone in the department for which I was responsible told me that I was crazy to think that there'd be change. In fact, we're very polite in the British system. They told me I was bold, then they told me I was brave, and eventually they told me I was truly courageous. And we know that it means you are crazy. Now you are going to be committed. And the last was, you are now committed to a lunatic asylum because this is impossible. Well, working together, we made the impossible possible. And I am not, actually they also said I was sweet. Can you imagine? But it took government, local government, business, NGOs, and the faith community, everybody working together to make this happen. So if anyone around this table thinks that governments can do it on their own, forget it. Business can do it on our own, forget it. Third sector can do it on their own, forget it. But together, we are invincible. And all we have to do is choose. So can I just say to everyone, please choose?